My name is Ernesto Padilla. I'm the CEO for Lake County Tribal Health, and it's my pleasure to welcome everyone to this year's Garden Blessing 2020. Thank you, everyone, for joining us virtually or in person. It's a very special year because we are unveiling a new site that we will show you and share with you in a few moments. I wanted to share a few facts from the Quaco Community Garden Meeting Earth Food. We're celebrating the sixth season. In 2014, Jamali and her outreach team started the community garden project. And in those 6 years, this project has served over 500 patients and produced over 15,000 pounds of fresh vegetables and fruits for our community. The purpose of this garden was, one, to increase the access to fresh fruits and vegetables for our native community, increase the knowledge and skills for individuals wanting to start a garden in their home, and 3, to strengthen the fellowship and well-being of our native community. We're really happy to celebrate 6 years of the community garden, even though it's in this virtual form. And I think we have to keep those things important to us and keep doing them, even if it's through a modified version and virtually. So thank you and welcome everyone. And at this point, I will pass the stage on to Sarah at the new site, which you guys will enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernesto. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and welcome. We are, my name is Sarah Hinchcliffe, and this is Sonia Chamberlain. We work at Lake County Tribal Health in the Diabetes Outreach Department, and we are privileged to introduce to you our new Quaco Community Garden that's located here at Legacy Court in Lakeport. We're at 1950 Parallel Drive. Quaco is Pomo for Earth Food, and we're going to take you on a quick tour around this new site. It's located, we've got beautiful Mount Canocti overlooking our new garden. There's Parallel Drive. We're really excited and really thankful to have this new location, and we were able to have the opportunity to make some improvements to our garden and make some really awesome additions. We have, right when you walk in, you see this new children's area. These beds are lower to the ground so the kids can access and grow their own vegetables here and come out from the preschool and water them. We have 4 beds here, and we have these 2 barrels here that we will be planting today. We also have the gazebo here that people can get out of the shade, sit and have their lunch. The kids can play in this area. This is Gabrielle. She will be joining us in a little bit and talking with us about how to start your own garden and how to plant plants appropriately so they grow big and healthy. We have our peach tree. Here's Kyle from THV, and Millie will be introducing them. And we have some picnic benches here for people to sit at and get out of the sun, have their lunch. Our plans are that we hope to have a pavilion here or a station that we can do food demonstrations for people that join us for our gardening classes in the summer. And then we have our cucumbers. And Sonia, if you want to tell us what's going to be planted here in a little bit.
Yeah, and here's going to be cucumbers. We have okra right in the barrels. The cherry tomatoes and strawberries are going to be for the children's garden, along with basil to go with the tomatoes. We have different herbs in the barrels. We got aloe vera, we got thyme, got some Thai basil. We're going to have eggplant in this one, and then this is going to be melons here. I don't know how much for you want me to.
That's good. And then we've got this. This is another one of our expansions for our community garden. We have a prayer area that people can sit quietly. They can pray to the Creator here and, you know, feel like they are in touch with the earth and have a moment of silence and privacy at this location.
Yeah.
And back here, we'll be planting some melons. Gabrielle's going to go over this in detail a little bit later when we come back to us here after the blessing. and
Tomatoes,
more tomatoes, pepper plants,
zucchini,
squashes,
yeah, melons, peppers.
and then our storage unit here is where we'll have supplies, and we're gonna have a shop.
We'll
That-
have our little store where you get points for garden classes.
Yep. So if you join us for our garden classes, we'll talk a little bit more about that. You earn points, and then you can come and shop in here that you can cash in your points for some goodies that you earn for coming to the classes. Next, I would like to introduce to you Millie Simon. She is doing us the honor of blessing our garden this season and our harvest. And she is an elder from Middletown Band of Homo Indians. She sits on the board of directors for Lake County Tribal Health. She is a board member. And she has also served on the HDAC committee, the Hemphill Diabetes Action Council. And we'd like to hand it over to her. If you could please do us the honors.
First of all, I would like to thank the Heavenly Father and thank Him for this beautiful land. And of course, thanking our ancestors for being our first teachers. And bless Lake County Tribal Health that has given us this opportunity to produce food for Indian people. And being grateful and thankful for what you have. Ancestors' old teaching, don't complain, don't ask more. For the earth provides for you water, food, and place to live. Today we ask Heavenly Father, bless the people and hands that prepare this garden for planting. This beautiful garden land will grow the food so the Indian people could enjoy good health and strength throughout our lives here upon the earth. We ask Heavenly Father to bless the garden. Growing our own food is important. Thank you, Heavenly Father, again for the sun and water that will help our plants to grow. Today, having a good time so the earth will feel good, dancing, singing, and laughing. Together we plant vegetables for healthy bodies and yields. Planting is helping the earth and the Indian people. Today, when you plant, put your heart and spirit into doing it. This is our way. We have fixed peace of the earth. Gratitude, not complaint, is close to the heart of the Indian ways. I'm honored to be here with these good people today, and I wish peace throughout the years to come for all. Amen.
Oh, well, thank you, Millie. All right, we are going to cut back to our other site at Tribal Health, the Medicinal Garden with Jamali Austin.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Millie, for that beautiful prayer. And I want to show you our garden here. This is what is typical called the medicine garden. So as you can see, we have the 4 areas of emotional health, physical health, spiritual health, and mental health. Because we are a whole person, we want to make sure that we are taking care of our whole body. And that's the goal of the clinic, whole care. In this garden, we're going to be planting beans. Last year, we planted squash, which take a lot of nitrogen out of the soil. So we wanted to make sure to bring something else to bring the nitrogen back. And beans are a great way of putting nitrogen back in our soil. So I wanted to show you some of the plants we're going to be planting here. So besides the beans, we're gonna have beautiful sunflowers to bring some pollinators. I'm gonna have Sarah Ryan in a little bit talking about pollinators. And as you can see, we also have some lavender here growing. They bring a lot of bees. We also have a new plant that Sonia just got for us. It's called the butterfly bush. So we're hoping to bring lots of beautiful plants in here to bring the pollen and create a beautiful environment for our plants. In addition, we have some of the sage that Native people like to use for ceremonies. So we're making sure that we grow some of that. And we also have some beautiful cactus I want to show you. We also have mint, and we have some of our traditional foods like berries to nourish our bodies. We also have these beautiful cactus that you can see, and more lavender and dill growing in here. And more sage over there. And you can see these beautiful plants growing.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Sarah Ryan with the Big Valley Band of Pomo Indians. And today I was going to talk a little bit about pollinator plants and also composting. So first I want to say that pollinator plants is a fancy term for any plant that has pollen. Usually that means flowers. And when you think of flowers, you see a lot of bees around them. So they're pollinating. They're basically getting food from those flowers. And while they're moving from flower to flower, they're actually moving the pollen, which is part of the reproductive way that flowers and other plants reproduce. So they're moving the pollen from one plant and putting it in the flower right next to it. So when you think of flowers, yeah, you can see flowers on a lot of things, not just flowers that you plant. There's flowers on vegetables. Like these vegetables that Jamali is planting are going to have flowers pretty soon. When you can think of herbs, a lot of herbs have flowers. So I wanted to show in this garden some of the pollinator plants that are here and just encourage you to plant pollinator plants in your yard. So that means flowers, that means vegetables, that means herbs like lavender or rosemary, and then encourage the flying things and the insects to go onto these plants, because that's how they move pollen from one thing to another. So if you have pollinators are the insects, and there's like 100,000 species of insects in this world. There's a lot of insects. So it's not just honeybees that move pollen from one plant to another. It's any sort of flying or crawling insect. So even ants are moving pollen from one flower to another, or from one rosemary flower to another rosemary flower. So it's better not to interrupt that. Let those insects move around where they are, because what it does is it helps the plants reproduce and grow. And the reason why people talk about pollinator plants these days and pollinators and pollinator protection plans and things like that is because we use a lot of bug spray, and we use a lot of things that end up killing our insects. And most insects have a role, and they do something on this earth to usually make things better for all of us. So try not to kill those insects. Let's walk around a little bit and I'll show you some pollinator plants. So let's move over to here, if that's okay. Right here in the medicine garden at Lake County Tribal Health Consortium, there are all of these pretty planter containers that surround the garden. I believe that this plant, I don't know what kind it is, but I believe it has flowers on it. And so we'll see when the flowers come out, you'll see a lot of flying things around it. Again, those are pollinators who are pollinating the plants. So let them be, let the bees be, let the flies be, let them pollinate these plants so that it'll keep the plants, it'll reproduce for the following year. And when we're talking about, I think this is a fruit tree. Looks like a fruit tree to me. So we'll probably see some flowers on here. And I'm sorry if it's not a fruit tree, I don't know, but it kind of looks like one. So fruit trees, definitely, you'll see a lot of bugs flying around those. But some of those bugs are, can hurt the tree. So you want to try to find that balance of using organic materials and organic, if you have to use something to keep the ants from crawling into it and creating a problem with the plant, then find the least toxic way to do it, because you're not trying to kill all the bugs. That's the point of pollinator plants and pollinator protection, is to save, is to keep as many insects around to do the pollinating. So let's move to actual flowers, all the way over here where the orange flowers are. I forget what these are called. I'm not really that great with plant names. I just goes in and out. But this is obviously a pollinator plant. We're going to see at some point. Let's see if I see. Yes. Okay. So I see right now little honeybees. If you can zoom up and see that little honeybee right there, and you can actually see some pollen sticking on the back of its legs. And that's what honeybees tend to do, is they'll carry the pollen. They've got some sort of, I don't know, technique where it sticks to them. And then when they fly back into the hive, you'll see a lot of pollen in there as well. Pollen is actually, bee pollen is something you see at grocery stores, health food stores. So a lot of people like to eat pollen because it's got some good nutrients to it. So on these flowers, I also saw there's another kind of just flying around. It's not a honeybee, but you know, it's a pollinator. So this, yeah, like, so here's a cute little honeybee right there. So you just see them all over. Let them be. Even wasps have do pollination. So of course, not everybody wants a lot of wasps around them, but at least if you're going to plant things and you're bothered by flying things, keep them a little bit further from your house, but let them do their thing. These are pollinator plants. One other, here's a cactus. This cacti right here have flowers on them. So we'll be doing, they'll be pollinating going on right here too. There are native bees and native insects to California, and I don't know what they are. I would Google it if I were you. Google native pollinators in California, and you'll probably see a whole host of different flying insects and different insects that are native species that that you should protect. I guess, so that's the point of pollinator plants, is that it's plants that will have some sort of flower on it that insects will be coming up to and moving from flower to get the nectar. But in so doing, they will dislodge the pollen that's in there, and that pollen will fall into another flower. There's basically male-female reproduction going on. So that pollen is part of why those plants continue on. But we need those insects to be jarring it and move, you know, for kind of dislodging that pollen and moving from plant to plant. So protect those native insects and native pollinators, and plant a pollinator garden. Just put those flowers and vegetables and herbs and everything that you know, fruit trees, everything that has flowers is a pollinator plant. Now we're going to go into compost. All right, so let's walk through this beautiful garden. Now, if you create a compost pile at your house, you don't necessarily have to do it as organized as this, but if you have it really organized, it's kind of nice, because you know you're going to have a lot of space to put the dried weeds and your food scraps and the dead plants, your dead flowers, whatever. You can put them in your compost pile. Your moldy bread, whatever you want. You know, food scraps break down and they turn into soil. So this is an outdoor compost pile, and the reason why it's so outdoor, and you see all these slots and stuff, is so the bugs can get in, and the bugs help break it down. The other thing about a compost pile is you do want to water it so that it will stay moist enough to break down. The other thing is eventually you want to turn it with a pitchfork or a shovel so it'll break down even further. So let's look at kind of their process here. And if you do a compost pile at your own house, you can, it doesn't have to be 3 separate sections, but as long as you have a space for the stuff that's new, that you're just adding onto it, and the stuff that is broken down, just make sure you have enough space for both. So here is, in this bin right here is where Tribal Health is putting all of their new stuff. You can see that it's tree branches and leaves. Here's an apple core from the break room. There's some food scraps in here, and there's some garden cleanup stuff in here. And basically they're piling it in. Now what they also do is whenever you throw a bunch of stuff on the top of your compost pile, you want to cover it with soil and some straw or leaves. So that's why right next to their compost pile, they have a pile of soil, which they need to get some more of because it's low. And then they have some straw. So when you throw in your food scraps or your weeds or whatever, take a few shovelfuls of soil, throw it on top just to cover, and then a little bit of straw, and then water it. And that will help it break down. And let's look at this last bin where we can see what it looks like. You can see it's a lot more broken down. I'm going to do this with my hand because I don't have a shovel. But what this is, all of that, the scraps that you saw on the other side, this is what it breaks down to over time. It's just pretty good soil over there. What they had to do to get it to like this is make sure that they added some soil and make sure that they turned it and they watered it. Now this can now be sifted and put into the garden, whether it's your garden, your flower plants, or oh, a lizard and a bee. So use this to, you want a spot where your stuff is almost done. You're not adding any new food scraps or whatever, because you really want to kind of let it finish. So this is the pile that has the soil. It's ready to sift, because once you sift it and you get all the big stuff out, you're left with soil that you can then put in your garden. So that's composting, is basically doing what nature already does. What nature does is if something falls in the forest or something falls in the woods, it breaks down eventually, whether it's an animal or a plant. And having a compost pile is putting all your plant scraps and all your food scraps and all your weeds into one spot, making sure you stir it, making sure you add soil and straw and you keep it wet. And eventually you're going to end up, within a few months, end up with some nice soil that you can then add to your garden. And this is a great program to do at your house, and we're really proud and glad that Lake County Tribal Health is doing it as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah Ryan. So we're back here at our legacy site, and we've got started on our planting in our garden beds. I'm going to switch the camera so you can see what we have. We got our okra planted in the barrel, and we started on some lemon cucumbers.
Hello, gardeners. I'm Gabrielle. I'm honored to have been a part of this garden.
All right, I think we're coming back to this gardening. I think they lost connection. I wanted to also give you some information about our garden classes. We'll be having Zoom garden classes. So right now you're gonna see the scheduled classes. So today, May 27, we started with a garden blessing. Next time we'll meet will be May 29, and we'll be doing the pests and pesticides with a master garden, Gabrielle. Then we'll have a drive-through giveaway. So for those of you that are interested in starting a garden at your home, this is a great opportunity to get a plant and a planter to plant your tomato and your basil. So we look forward to having as many as you to come. Then the master gardeners are gonna share tips on how to grow their container gardens at home. We'll have some food demos from the Barbara Ho from Lake County Public Health Department, Cow Fresh Healthy Living food demos. And then NASPA is gonna do a culture class. And we'll have Sarah sharing more about pollinators and composting and food demos also. And we'll finish with her herbal remedy class. This was a very popular class, and we're excited to bring it back next year. I also want to mention that on chat, there's a Survey Monkey link that you can take it to give us some feedback on how you thought this went. We'll also be sending those alive when we post this video, so you can take the survey. And again, I want to thank especially Sonia Chamberlain there in the Legacy Garden for all her hard work, Sarah Hinchcliffe for creating a wonderful schedule for us and getting us ready, Virginia and Joyce for organizing these wonderful events, for everybody that participated, thank you so much. We appreciate your time and we look forward to a beautiful harvest time.